My name is Savannah Cole. I'm 35. Last Easter, I drove 4 hours from Nashville to my hometown in rural Georgia to surprise my family for the holiday. I hadn't missed Easter in 11 years. When I knocked on the door, my mother-in-law, the woman who'd been calling me daughter for 6 years, answered and said, "Oh, we didn't set a plate for you. We didn't think you were actually coming." Behind her, through the hallway, I could see a table set for 9 people. My husband was already sitting at it. What I didn't know yet was that I'd paid for the food on that table, catered it, every dish. And what I said 3 days later when my husband finally called, he didn't see it coming. Hit that like button if you're already feeling this one. Drop your state and your time in the comments. I love knowing where you're watching from. Now let me take you back to 14 months ago when the first crack appeared. It started with a phone call from my mother-in-law, Donna Hargrove. Donna is 61, lives in Macon, Georgia, runs the women's ministry at her Baptist church, and has never once in her life asked for something directly. She wraps every request in so much sweetness you're halfway through agreeing before you realize what you signed up for. "Savannah, honey, you know Marcus's sister is getting married in June." I knew. Lee Hargrove, 28, engaged to a man named Derek whose family owned 3 furniture stores across Middle Georgia. Real money. The kind of family that notices when the tablecloths aren't pressed. "We are just so thrilled," Donna said. "But you know how it is with big events. The vendors want a card on file and our credit after the refinance last year and Marcus's dad's medical situation. It's just not where it needs to be." I waited. "Your credit score is so impressive, Savannah. You've always been the responsible one. We just need a name on the contracts. You wouldn't even feel it. Deposits up front, balance after the event." "How much total, Donna?" A pause. "The whole event comes to about $52,000, but the deposits are only $4,800. I was quiet for a moment. My name, $52,000. Someone else's party. I should tell you something. I'd been here before. When Marcus and I were first married, I co-signed a home equity line for his parents. That took 3 years and 2 refinances to untangle. When my own mother needed $2,000 for a car repair, Donna somehow heard about it and said, 'See, Savannah, you're always so generous.' Like generosity was something that happened to me rather than something I chose. But this was Marcus's sister, and Marcus was my husband, and I loved Lee genuinely. She was warm and funny and had always been kind to me, kinder than the rest of the Hargroves, if I'm being honest. 'Send me the contracts,' I said. I signed all 4 that week. The wedding planning started immediately, and I was immediately on the outside of it. Lee created a wedding group chat with her bridesmaids, her mother, her aunts, and her future mother-in-law. I wasn't added. I found out when Marcus mentioned a brunch at Donna's house to look at centerpiece options. I asked what time I should arrive. He looked confused. "Oh, I think it's just the ladies from the group chat." I was a lady. I was his wife. But apparently I wasn't in that category. I texted Lee directly, asked if she needed help with anything, if there was a role I could play. She replied with a heart emoji and, "You're already doing so much with the contracts, girl. You're a lifesaver." A lifesaver, not a family member, a lifesaver. The rehearsal dinner was the Friday before the June wedding. Donna texted me Wednesday. "Friday is immediate family and wedding party only. See you Saturday, sweetie." I was the groom's brother's wife. I wasn't sure where that landed on the immediate family chart, but I let it go. I told myself I was overthinking it. I told myself it would be fine once Saturday came and everyone was together. I took 2 days off work. I'm a physical therapist and PTO is precious. I booked a hotel in Macon, $220 a night, 2 nights. Drove down Friday evening so I'd be rested for the wedding. Bought a new dress, had my hair done that morning. Total out of pocket for this trip, $1,400. Plus the $4,800 in deposits already gone. Saturday morning, I got a text from Marcus. "Hey babe, mama wants to know if you're doing okay at the hotel. She says the ceremony starts at 3. Not come meet us for breakfast. Not we saved you a seat at the family table. Just a timestamp forwarded through my husband like I was a guest who needed logistical information." I stared at my reflection in the hotel mirror. Navy wrap dress, hair done, a card in my purse for Lee and Derek with a check inside. I told myself it's fine. Once you get there, it's fine. The venue was a restored plantation house outside Macon, white columns, Spanish moss, a long oak-lined driveway. The parking lot was already half full when I arrived at 2:30. I could hear a string quartet warming up inside. I walked up the front steps in my heels, card in hand. Donna was standing at the entrance. She was in a mother-of-the-bride-style dusty rose gown, pearls, hair set perfectly. She looked like she'd been placed there. Because she had been. Savannah. Her voice was warm, surface warm, pool surface warm where the cold is just underneath. Donna, you look beautiful. I smiled. Is Marcus inside? I didn't see his car, honey. She touched my arm and steered me slightly away from the door. I need to talk to you about something. I felt it then. The specific quality of dread that comes when you realize you already know what someone is about to say, and you've been refusing to let yourself know it. Derek's family, the Abbotts, they are very traditional, very private. Lee and Derek put together a very specific guest list, and we've had to be so careful about the numbers. Donna, I'm Marcus's wife. I know, sweetheart, and Marcus is inside. But the seating, she lowered her voice. We told the Abbotts that the Hargrove side was just immediate family. Parents, siblings, grandparents. And Marcus's, your situation with the family has always been a little my situation. You know, you and Marcus have had your rough patches, and rather than explain all of that to the Abbotts, you told them I don't exist. She blinked. I wouldn't put it that way. How would you put it? She glanced toward the entrance. Inside, through the open doors, I could hear guests settling into seats. The string quartet had started. Marcus was in there. My husband was in there, sitting in a family row, in a family he'd let erase me from the guest list. A woman appeared in the doorway behind Donna. Tall, silver jewelry, the composed look of someone who runs things quietly and efficiently. This was Carol Abbott, Derek's mother. She'd heard our voices. Donna, is everything all right? Donna turned and her entire face rearranged itself. Oh, Carol, yes, just a family friend who had the date wrong. You know how it gets with these big events. I looked at Donna. She looked at Carol. She didn't look at me. A family friend, I said quietly, evenly. Carol Abbott studied me. You look like Marcus, she said slowly. Are you related to the Hargroves? Donna's smile didn't move. I took the card out of my purse, set it on the stone railing by the door. That's for Lee and Derek, I said. Congratulations to them. And I walked back to my car. I need to stop right here, because I know what some of you are thinking. Why didn't you just walk in? You're his wife. What were they going to do? I've asked myself that 100 times. And here's the honest answer, because I'd spent 6 years training myself to keep the peace in that family. 6 years of swallowing things that stung, of telling myself it wasn't that bad, of being grateful for every crumb of inclusion they offered me. By the time I was standing at that door, the training was stronger than the anger. That changes. I promise you that changes. But I want to know, what would you have done? Walk in anyway or walk away? Tell me in the comments. And if this is hitting home for you, hit that like button. Let's get back to the story. I sat in my car in that parking lot for 20 minutes. Then I drove back to the hotel, took off my dress, ordered a pizza, and opened my laptop. 4 invoices. All time-stamped that afternoon, automated and cheerful. Magnolia House venue. Balance due $19,400. Southern Grace Catering. Balance due $14,200. Ivory and Ivy Florals. Balance due $9,100. Landmark Photography. Balance due $5,300. Total $48,000. My name, their wedding, my empty chair. I sat with those numbers until the pizza arrived. Then I ate half of it and made 4 phone calls. Same script 4 times, same calm voice. Hi, my name is Savannah Cole. I'm the contract holder for the Hargrove Abbott event today. I'm calling to notify you that I will not be authorizing the remaining payment on this contract. I was not a guest at the event, and I'm requesting the outstanding balance be redirected to the event hosts. 4 vendors, 4 polite acknowledgments, 0 argument. Then I called my bank, canceled the card on file, and ordered a replacement. $48,000 in outstanding invoices now had nowhere to land, except on the people who'd thrown the party. The deposits, $4,800, were gone. Combined with the hotel, the dress, the drive, I was out about $6,900. I decided that was the tuition. The cost of finally understanding something I'd been refusing to learn. I slept 8 hours that night for the first time in months. Marcus called Sunday morning, not that night, Sunday morning. He'd spent the whole night at the reception, and apparently it took until the next day for anyone to brief him on what had happened at the door. Savannah, what is going on? Mom said you left. Your mom introduced me to Carol Abbott as a family friend, Marcus, and told me I wasn't on the guest list. Silence. She said there was a seating issue. Did you know? Longer silence. I knew there was some tension around the guest list. I didn't know she was going to. Did you know she told the Abbotts you were an only child? The silence after that was a different kind. Marcus, did you know? She said it was simpler. That our rough patches last year would be hard to explain to a traditional family. And so yes. He didn't answer, which was its own answer. The vendors are going to start sending invoices to your parents this week, I said. I've removed my payment authorization. Savannah, that's $48,000. I know what it is, I signed the contracts, remember? He hung up. Donna called that afternoon, the sweetness was gone. Just cold, direct Georgia steel underneath. You cannot do this to this family. Do you understand what you've done? Lee and Derek are devastated. The Abbotts are asking questions. You've humiliated us. Donna, you told your son's wedding guests that his wife doesn't exist. A wedding I paid for. You were having marital problems. It was complicated to explain. Our rough patch was one argument about Thanksgiving. We were fine by December. It was more than that, and you know it. Then why didn't you talk to me about it? Why didn't you ask me if I wanted to be included? Why did you take my credit card and then close the door? Silence. After everything I've done for this family, she said finally. I know, I've been counting, I said. And I'm done. I hung up. My aunt by marriage, my father's sister-in-law Renee, who lives in Atlanta and has no patience for foolishness, heard what happened through my mother, who had called that Sunday just to have one person in my corner. Renee called Carol Abbott on Tuesday. She found the number through the wedding venue's public booking information. Renee is resourceful like that. She told Carol that Marcus Hargrove had a wife, that the wife had signed every contract for the wedding, that Donna Hargrove had been telling the Abbott family throughout the entire engagement that her son was essentially unattached, that the wife's situation was vague, complicated, probably not long-term. Carol Abbott's response to Renee, according to Renee, she told us what? The Abbotts are a family that makes decisions based on full information. They had not been given full information. That mattered to them deeply. Carol called Donna that afternoon. I wasn't on the call, but Renee heard about it through a mutual contact. Donna, we joined our family to yours based on trust. You presented your family to us in a way that was incomplete at best and dishonest at worst. Derek and Lee's marriage is starting in a house built on that. I don't take that lightly. Donna tried to explain. Carol Abbott did not stay on the line for explanations. Derek confronted Lee that evening. Renee heard this through Derek's cousin, who was still in town for the wedding weekend. Your brother has a wife, Derek said. An actual wife. She paid for our entire wedding and your mother kicked her out of the parking lot. Lee cried. It's complicated, babe, you don't know the whole. I know that we got married in a venue paid for by someone your family treated like a stranger. That's what I know. 4 days into their marriage, Lee and Derek had their first real fight. Over a sister-in-law Derek didn't know existed and a bill nobody could afford. Wednesday morning, I sent one email. Recipients: Donna Hargrove, Robert Hargrove, Marcus Hargrove, Lee Hargrove Abbott. Donna, Robert, Marcus, Lee, I've removed my payment authorization from all vendor contracts for the wedding. The $48,000 outstanding balance has been redirected to you as the event hosts. I want to be clear, this isn't retaliation. It's a boundary. I signed those contracts because I believed I was part of this family. I'm not willing to keep financing a family that introduces me as a stranger. I wish Lee and Derek a genuinely happy life together. If anyone wants a real relationship with me, not a transactional one, I'm open to it. But it starts with honesty about who I am and what I've contributed. Savannah, I read it 5 times. Made sure there was nothing petty, nothing dramatic, nothing I'd regret. There wasn't. It was just true. I hit send, made a cup of coffee, and stood at my kitchen window looking out at my backyard garden. My tomato plants, my porch swing. The herb garden I'd started 3 summers ago that nobody had ever helped me tend. This was my life. I'd built it. Nobody here had ever called me a family friend. Marcus and I separated 2 months after the wedding. Not because of that Saturday alone. That Saturday was just the day I stopped being able to pretend the pattern wasn't there. 6 years of being the financial backstop, the peacekeeper, the one who absorbed the family's discomfort so everyone else could be comfortable. That's a long time to perform a role you were never officially cast in. The divorce is in process. I won't say it's easy. I will say it's honest. Donna and Robert ended up paying about $22,000 out of their savings. The Abbotts co-signed a loan for the rest, not out of generosity, but because their name was on the event and Carol Abbott does not let debts attach to her family's reputation. Lee reached out to me 8 weeks after the wedding, not to ask for money. Just to say I didn't know she was going to do that. I'm sorry, you deserved to be there. It was 8 words. I cried for 10 minutes. Then I wrote back, thank you, that means more than you know. We've texted a few times since. It's small, but it's real. My Aunt Renee checks on me every Sunday. She calls it her weekly Savannah audit. She says she's making sure I haven't talked myself back into a bad situation. She says it like a joke. She means it completely seriously. I started therapy 4 months ago. My therapist calls what I was doing fawn response, a survival pattern where you manage other people's emotions, shrink yourself, overcontribute, and call it love because calling it fear is too hard to sit with. I was fawning for 6 years and calling it being a good wife. I'm done fawning. $6,900. That's what this cost me. The deposits, the hotel, the dress, the gas. In exchange for that $6,900, I got clarity. The kind that doesn't come from reading a self-help book. The kind that only comes from standing at a door that should have been open and finally accepting that it wasn't built for you. I'm not telling you this story so you'll be angry at the Hargroves. They're frightened people who built a narrative that felt safer than the truth, and they hurt someone in the process. That's a very human failure. But I am telling you this because maybe you're the Savannah in your family. The one with the good credit and the generous heart and the deep, quiet belief that if you just give a little more, show up one more time, cover one more bill, eventually they'll see you. Eventually they'll hold the door. They won't. Not if they never plan to. You are worth more than the function you serve. Build a table that has your name on it. Sit at the head of it. Don't apologize for taking up that space. I didn't lose my family that day outside that venue in Macon. I found out the truth about what I'd had. And I decided finally at 35 years old that the truth was a better foundation than the fiction. Turns out you can build a lot on truth. So here's my question. If you were me, would you have paid the $48,000 or would you have drawn the line? Drop PAY or boundary in the comments. I read every single one. If this story hit something real for you, subscribe. I share stories like this every week about family, about money, about what it actually costs to choose yourself. Check the description for another story I think will hit just as hard. I'll see you in the next one.